and welcome to the Pig and Whistle Tales from Azeroth. As always, here at the Pig and Whistle Inn in Stormwind, I go through a variety of subjects with regards to World of Warcraft. So grab a bottle or a pint, sit back and enjoy. This episode we'll be going over, because it's very soon until it is released, Season of Discovery. Now, this was something that was announced at BlizzCon. I'll be going over exactly what it is, what it entails, what powers you can get in Season of Discovery, the frequency of the content, and the upcoming stuff for it, so what's to come in the future. But, as always, we have the weekly news. We have the world bosses for the week are Stormwind, the Scarlet Elders, and Azeroth. These are located in their No, I've completely butchered that sentence. Those are located in their zones, which are Onaran Plains. The Scarlet Elders are Zaralak Caverns, and Azeroth is in the Emerald Dream. The bonus event for this week is Arenas. So you get more honour for competing in arena skirmishes, and just arenas generally. This is good for essentially but giving your characters that extra bit of honour boost to get some gold, because now you can use your honour to buy certain items that give you gold, or just gear a alt character. The mythic affixes for this week are Tyrannical, Entangling, and Bursting. Tyrannical, the boss and the mobs that they spawn have increased health and damage. Entangling, it will occasionally snare players, so keep moving, kill the root, stuff like that. And Bursting, when you kill an enemy, they will essentially explode, giving you a debuff. You don't want too much of this debuff, so you want to kill everything either immediately and pop a defensive cooldown, or you want to stagger it and wait for the debuff to drop off until you finish the next mob. We have the Blitz, as well as Korak's Revenge for your Battleground. What are they? I've completely forgotten. They're your random Battlegrounds? No. Oh my god, I've completely forgotten what they are called. Because it's just been Brawls. That's it. Oh my god, I just couldn't. It didn't click in my head for some reason. We have Battleground Blitz and Korak's Revenge. Battleground Blitz is an 8v8. It's something that they're testing out, that they're probably going to put into rated next season. This will be a rated Battleground, solo queue Battleground. And Korak's Revenge, because it is still the 19th anniversary of World of Warcraft, you can go back into the old Outreach Valley, the Outreach Valley that had no reinforcements. It went on for years, and you can spawn all the mobs and stuff, you know, the real OG back in classic kind of deal. If you really want to do that, there is a quest to do it. You pick up from Chromie in the Caverns of Time, and it gives you about 150 time warping badges. It's really good, actually. And it's good fun. It's good fun just to play around with the old Outreach Valley on sort of retail. On retail, it's not necessarily as enjoyable, and it feels much more of a grind, to be honest. But let's get into Season of Discovery. So, Season of Discovery will release when this episode goes live in 2 days. Yes, in 2 days. Which is the 26th, I believe. What is Season of Discovery? Essentially, it's classic World of Warcraft. So you're in classic, level 60 is maximum, but they've dialed down the maximum level for the start of this. So the maximum level is level 25 at the start of Season of Discovery. And you might think, oh, well, that seems a bit boring. What can you do at level 25? So they have revamped a lot of things in the world itself. So you now have powers. And the way that these powers work are they're very specific, like drops in the world. And they're called runes. These runes you locate within the world, and they can be enchanted onto your chest piece, your hands, or your legs. Now, these enchants do certain things. So one of them for Druid is the cost of Wrath is reduced by 100%. And it has a chance to give you an instant healing touch, which is really nice. There's a one for Feral where you can get Skull Bash, which is really nice. It's an actual kick for Feral Druids. You can get, as a mage, healing abilities. You can actually become a healer as a mage, which is really, really cool. You can be a shaman tank as well. There's certain runes that allow you to increase your threat, make something a taunt, give you more shield blocks, stuff like that. So the runes really mix up everything that was meant to be planned in Classic, but didn't ever make it. Because shamans were originally meant to be tanks back in Classic, but they just never made them tanky enough or give them enough sort of threat to do that. Essentially the same with paladins. Paladins have a tank spec, but essentially they can't tank because they can't hold threat on single target a lot of the time, plus they don't actually have an active taunt. Warrior and druid were the only ones with an active taunt, but warriors were just so much better because of damage output, so warriors were always the go-to. The way that they made this sound was they wanted everything to be as good as warrior at endgame, rather than nerfing warrior. So they want everything to be just as good, if not more powerful, that kind of deal, which is really good. And I think that is the way that they should go about it, because I feel like they should make it kind of a sandbox mode. In my honest opinion, they should really go for it with the runes. So currently with the runes, there's about 5 for each class, or each, not each class, but each slot. So 5 for the chest piece for druids, 5 for the gloves for druids, and 5 for the legs. And then primarily it's 1 or 2 sort of per specialization, but you can have 1 or 2 a bit random ones in there, and you could do like some funky sort of build with it. Then others are very much, you get simple abilities, like for paladins you can get a taunt, which is what they really do lack, like in Classic, so it's really, really good. But the powers, we don't know if there are more at the very start of Season of Discovery. We do know that when they bring out the sort of patches or content, like later on down the line, there will be more runes to discover, and there will be more runes to find and collect. These runes are just found out and about in the world, in corners of the world. You could probably go to Darnassus at the very top in some sort of random cave, and there'll probably be one. You know, that kind of deal. They are not having a... Is it beta version? Yeah, beta of the Season of Discovery, primarily because they don't want people to find out where these runes are. They want people to discover World of Warcraft from a new player's perspective all over again, and discover things that, you know, are in the starting area that you might not have like went to go and find before. So it's like, oh my god, this is so cool, there's a rune here. Okay, I've found something new, like in Teldrassil, that I haven't found for the 18 years that I've been playing this or whatever, you know, that kind of deal, which is really cool, and I kind of rate it. Although there will be a few bugs, but I mean, there's always going to be that, isn't there? And that's what makes the game fun, to be honest. But endgame content for Season of Discovery is level 25 maximum, and at level 25 you get a group of 10, and you can go into Black Fathom Deeps. The Black Fathom Deeps in Classic and in Retail is a 5-player dungeon. What they have done is they revamped the dungeon and made it a bit more up-to-date. Not as up-to-date as like Retail bosses, but a bit more, you know, there's mechanics in there. Kind of more like Naxxramas up-to-date mechanics, I would say. That kind of deal. And essentially it has become a raid. This raid has new bosses, new loot. So yeah, that's kind of the endgame content that we know for level 25. They did get to test it in BlizzCon and saw some gameplay of it. It looks really fun, I'm not going to lie. The classes all look very good and actually enjoyable to play. Ret Paladins looked very boring in Classic, and were boring in my honest opinion. But in Season of Discovery, they actually have like usage. They actually have like a use and do like more damage than pretty much most other DPS at the time, like at that level, which is really, really good. And that's the way that it should be. There shouldn't be a class that's like left out. And it's always going to be a balancing issue with Classic and Season of Discovery, and in this sort of context, this sandbox mode, there will be a massive sort of nerfs and buffs happening. But as long as they're playing around with the numbers and everything feels fun to play, That's what it should be, because it is a sandbox mode. It isn't a super serious WoW mode, essentially. There'll be people that main it, just like how people main Classic or Wrath World of Warcraft or Retail. All of them. But in my personal opinion, this is one that you can hop on and play every now and again, just to have some fun with it. There is a private server called World of Warcraft Ascension, and primarily it does the same. You can kind of mix and match sort of classes on Project Ascension, and I think that they've kind of taken inspiration from World of Warcraft Ascension, where it is more of a sandbox mode and you can mix and match kind of things. I would like to see them use a couple, or maybe like you get to pick one ability. You could switch out one ability for a different class's ability, that kind of deal. But honestly, it doesn't bother me. As long as they make everything fun in Season of Discovery, it shouldn't matter what you play, because ultimately it is a sandbox mode of World of Warcraft, which I think is great. Now, looking forward to the in Season of Discovery, as I said, level 25 is the maximum at the start. But where do we go from there? So at BlizzCon, they didn't say much. They said that we'll be getting out content patches frequently, stuff like that. But they did at the end tease a few things that would be happening. So, level 25 is our max. They teased a picture of Nomragon. Nomragon being around a level 30-odd instance. But I think what they're going to do is up this to around level 40 or 35. Something around there. And turn Nomragon into a raid. The way that I see it, Nomragon is one of the least favourite dungeons in the game. They would have to seriously revamp it for people to actually enjoy it, in my honest opinion. I say it's least favourite in the game just because I don't have fond memories of it. People pull a lot of packs, people don't know the route, stuff like that. That's just my own personal opinion. But I think they can do a lot with Nomragon. It's such a big space, they can definitely do a lot with it. But I think that will go up to level 35/40. I didn't see anything between level 50, Blackrock Depths range, but they did tease Scarlet Monastery. Scarlet Monastery being the opposite to Nomragon and one of the most favourite dungeons, I think, in the player base from Classic. Scarlet Monastery obviously has 4 wings, but what people don't know is in the beta version of World of Warcraft, before it was even released to the public, Scarlet Monastery was one whole dungeon. So you have 4 dungeons currently for Scarlet Monastery. You have Graveyard, Library, Armory, and Cathedral, all of them in their own instance. You have a couple bosses in each. Yeah, if that. And essentially, before this, they all were intertwined with one another. So Graveyard led to, I want to say Library. I can't remember. Armory led to Graveyard. Oh my god, I can't actually remember, because Graveyard pathed off to the left, which led to Cathedral, I think. Essentially in beta World of Warcraft, it all led into one another. So it was a giant instance. All 4 of these instances were put together and they had paths through them. If you actually look in Classic, when you do World of Warcraft, or when you do Scarlet Monastery Armory, after you've killed the final boss, his room is a circle. And he's at the bottom of this circle. There's 2 layers. There's the upper layer of the circle and the bottom layer. He's in the bottom layer and you enter the room from the top layer. If you kill him, behind where he stood, you have this arch, because you've got 2 staircases either side. Now, behind him, this arch is a different colour, to the wall around it. And essentially, this was the pathway through into the other instance, which is really, really cool. A lot of people don't actually know that, and I think that for Scarlet Monastery, they'll be doing that. They'll be putting everything back together so that it's one big sort of raid again. I do have to state that all of these dungeons that they're going to make into raids, I would imagine they keep at a 10-player sort of raid number, because getting 40 players in Season of Discovery will be very difficult, I would say. They might have like different modes. They might have like a 25 player mode and a 10 player mode, but I don't think they'll do 40 player. I don't think that that's a great sustainable way of doing it, in my honest opinion. But yeah, Scarlet Monastery, I think, will be a little bit higher of a level than what people originally think. People might think, oh, level 40 for Scarlet Monastery, but no, I think it will be, you get about 15 levels of leveling, 10 to 15, and then you go into your next raid instance. So if Nomragon's at level 35/40, Scarlet Monastery will be the level 50 mark, in my opinion. And then you've obviously got the 10 levels left to get into level 60 after that. Now, what's at level 60? This is something that people found in World of Warcraft in the files, in-game, underneath a certain place. It was never accessible by the player base by normal means. You had to do some death, like jumping and like, you know, playing around with the game mechanics, essentially. This is the Karazhan Crypts. Now, the Karazhan Crypts are most famous for being very fleshed out area that no one could ever see. So they put a lot of work and effort into actually putting a lot of stuff down there in the Karazhan Crypts, but no one was ever able or meant to see it. You have full bodies of water that, you know, have people kind of upside down and dead in. You have loads of piles of bones. You have loads of... It's a very eerie place, and it's located underneath Karazhan. Karazhan was meant to be a raid back in Classic, but again, never made the cut until the Burning Crusade. So they did tease Karazhan Crypts at the end of the Season of Discovery panel at BlizzCon, and a lot of people are really excited about it. And as you should be, it's something that has been in World of Warcraft for nearly 19, or has been in 19 years, and they did nothing with it. They actually closed it off to people in retail so that they just couldn't access it, essentially, like anymore, which is a real shame, in my honest opinion. But this will be your max level dungeon, your level 60, not dungeon, level 60 raid. This will be it. Karazhan Crypts, they can do anything with this. But I imagine it is you descend into the Karazhan Crypts. So you're going further and further down to meet a final boss, maybe like a lich or something, kind of like Naxxramas. You know, you dispatch him, that kind of deal. So they could do anything in terms of loot here. They could put a new legendary in there. They could put certain runes in there. They could put legendary runes in there. But yeah, the Karazhan Crypts will be your final raid of Season of Discovery. This turns to the question of frequency of the content. Now, I imagine it's going to be a phase 1, 2, 3, 4, you know, that kind of deal, like they're doing with Classic. In my honest opinion, they will do this every couple months, I think. So you have November is when Season of Discovery comes out. You will have everything up until after Christmas for Black Fathom Deeps. I would recommend that Black Fathom Deeps would go on till about end of June, or end of January, and then February they release the next sort of phase of Season of Discovery with Nomragon and stuff like that. And then my next guess would be mid 2024 that they release the next one, around May, June, that sort of time. They do have to take into account Cataclysm, which I think that they will not release anything during that period. They'll release it like staggered, so that someone's always got something to do. So whether it be a retail patch, or Cataclysm, or Season of Discovery, or yeah, you know, that kind of deal. So my guess would be May, June. And then you have Scarlet Monastery at the back end, so August time maybe. And then finally, November next year, you have Karazhan Crypts, which will be really cool to see, you know, and just experience. It'll be cool to see the content done on it, see people run the raid and stuff like that. Many things will change, but with these constant updates, they will be adding more and more runes, I would imagine. Just how many, we don't know. I would imagine they release about 5 per enchant again, per class, potentially. So you end up with like 20 sort of runes, like at the end of it. that's kind of what I'm hoping for. You can really like chop and change. But who knows? Who honestly knows with Season of Discovery? It's a complete blank slate. From what we know, obviously the beta we have not gotten because they don't want to do one. They want to keep everything a secret, which I think is amazing. I think that's such a good call to do. But I don't know. I think it's one of the more favourable things to come out of BlizzCon. BlizzCon was very hopeful. In terms of what they're promising, what they're doing, which is really good and something that we should all be looking forward to. I do think Season of Discovery is going to be a massive hit. I think if they leave it for too long and don't give us enough content in Season of Discovery, then it will get boring because trying to farm stuff at level 25 isn't as enjoyable. You want to be farming stuff at max level and stuff like all of that. But if they're releasing content quite frequently, it's like, okay, I'm getting ready for Nomragon or I'm getting ready for Scarlet Monastery. I've got loads of quests. I can finally go quest in Stranglethorn Vale, which is my favourite zone. Or I can go and quest in, Tanaris, which is a favourite like place of mine. All them kind of deals. I see them opening up Caverns of Time, actually. I think that they'll open up Caverns of Time in Season of Discovery if it's a very community favorited mode, or World of Warcraft. I see them opening that up and doing stuff with Caverns of Time, or even Oldham. Oldham is in Classic. You've got a giant gateway for it. They could just make it into an entire raid zone, with that portal at the bottom of Tanaris. They might put like a little flight path at the bottom or something just to help people get there, but that could be something that's relatively interesting. You have so many things that you can do. Like with Season of Discovery, you can really play around with it. You could do stuff like, honestly, a Teldrassil raid, where you just turn zones into raids themselves, which I think isn't actually a bad idea. You could do a Baron's raid. Imagine just coming across Mancrick's wife again. Like, she's a boss. Mancrick's wife's a boss. This tells the story of how she died. Oh my god. That's amazing. But yeah, I'm getting off topic a bit. Season of Discovery looks really good. It's something that I recommend that you should definitely try and play around with. It is in Classic, so you do have to do a little bit of a grind in terms of leveling for it. But I think the runes and stuff and playing around with it, having the class desire that you want in Classic, like Shaman tank, Paladin tank, mage healer, that kind of deal, is really fun and something that should be more praised rather than scrutinized. If they get something wrong, it shouldn't be scrutinized. It should be, okay, this is how to improve it, rather than, oh my god, Blizzard messed up again, what the hell, this is stupid, like just fire them, small indie company, that kind of deal. It should be more, I like the idea, but it hasn't quite fit into place, so this is how it can be rectified almost, that kind of deal. But that is where I'm going to end the episode this week. Thank you all very much for listening, as always. Do check out all of the socials down below, constant stuff happening over there. Thank you all very much once again, and go with Valor, friend. Goodbye all.